Hello. Hi, everyone. I am Victoria Okocha, and welcome to Dear Future Self. Today's episode is titled The Hidden Wounds, Understanding Emotional and Psychological Impact of Domestic Violence. As you know, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Today I am joined by Evarista Onitiri. She is a mental health practitioner, clinical social worker, and founder of Harmony Wellness and Counselling Center in Lagos, Nigeria. With over 20 years of experience, Eva brings deep insight into how trauma affects our minds, emotions, and relationship long after abuse ends. Together, we'll explore the invisible scars survivors carry and the power of healing through therapy, emotional regulation, and faith in self and in God. This episode is about rediscovering your worth, reclaiming your peace, and knowing that healing is truly possible. So, welcome, Eva. How are you today?
I am very well, Victoria. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you this
You
morning.
You are welcome. And it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So, it's one of the things that I'm very passionate about. A lot of the work that I do is to help people to overcome and heal through domestic violence. So it's an honor to have you on today and to get some of your insights and nuggets in terms of how people can heal, because as domestic violence isn't just women that experience it. Domestic violence can be experienced by anybody, or I will say domestic abuse can be experienced by anybody, men, children. It can be children on parents. Even you can experience toxic relationships with your work colleagues, friends, and even relations. So, from your clinical experience, what are some of the most common emotional and psychological effects survivors of domestic violence experience, even long after leaving an abusive relationship? What are your thoughts on that?
Mhm. That's a very good question. Like you said in the question, is the impact actually lasts long after the abuse occurred. So one of the
Yeah.
biggest things that you can see off the bat is anxiety
Mm.
and hypervigilance. So you're now hypervigilant about everything. You're anxious. Things that were easier for you to do, you lack the capacity to do it now, right? Because it has affected your capacity, right? You question the intention behind every conversation. If
Yeah.
someone is trying to be good or nice, you wonder what are they looking for? Why are they being so nice to me? Because you've learned that you can't be safe in seemingly safe spaces or with people that appear safe. Okay. Another thing is low self esteem and low self worth. You begin to actually feel that shame and guilt, sometimes even anger towards yourself. How did I not see this coming? How did I not do better? Why did I not exit sooner? Right? So and then you start to question yourself. Maybe what they said, right? Because we know the impact of words, they last. And
Yes.
sometimes you actually begin to see yourself from those lenses like, were they right? Were they onto something when they said this? And actually, you might be able to even pull even examples of when you think that they might have been correct, right?
Mm.
In the things that they said or did. So
Yeah.
another thing is emotional numbing and dissociation. I'm never
Say
going
that
to be
again.
in an
Sorry,
intimate
say that again.
relationship
Say,
again.
say that, say
I'm
that.
you
Emotion,
emotional numbing. So
emotional
you
numbing.
numb the
Mm.
emotions and you dissociate
Yeah.
or dissociation. So this is you trying to skew the reality of what happened, or you lock it up safely and tuck it down there. The issue now is that you have also locked other people out, those who are
Mm.
actually here now to help you heal, right? And
Yeah.
if you dare become vulnerable, it all comes out anyways, right? So, and that's a maladaptive way of actually coping. So you numb that, You numb the emotion, you dissociate, you overwork, you over exercise, you over, like you now indulge in so many things to hide away,
Yeah.
right? From the pain, which I understand because it's painful, it's
Of
hard,
course. Yeah.
it's heavy, right? So you're looking for ways to cope.
Mm.
And these are things that, but you have to be intentional and you have to be
Yeah.
willing to go through the discomfort
Yeah.
that comes with healing in the beginning. And I promise you, it does get lighter. But when you dissociate it, avoid it, and throw yourself into something else, you haven't dealt with the pain. So
Yeah.
that's one. And then I'll just say one more is complex grief and loss of identity,
Mm.
right? So that complex grief is the grief of the relationship that was. It's nice to have somebody please, scratch my back or, lotion my back for me where I can't reach. Or you're not alone, or can you make me a cup of tea? I'm really tired this morning. That there's a loss. And at some point in that relationship, it was good,
Yeah.
right? So you grieve the loss of that. You grieve the other external relationship that came with that, your mutual friendship. You grieve the dream and the vision and the hope
Yeah.
you had for that relationship. And then more importantly, you grieve the loss of yourself.
Yeah. My
All the parts of
goodness.
you that eroded, right, during that
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
parts of you that buried because you wanted that relationship so badly. Loss of your agency, the loss of your audacity, like, of
Mm.
just your presence, your power, and who you've become, and how small you have become by virtue of that relationship, which
Yeah.
leads to the loss of identity. Who am I now? Because you started questioning everything. I thought I was bold. How would I have let that
Yeah.
happen to me?
Yeah. My
I
goodness.
thought I was this, then why did I condone this for so long?
Yeah.
Right? So those are like examples of things that you will, most people, there's always an exception, would experience post domestic violence or
Violence. Yeah.
abusive relationship in any capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That is, there's a lot to unpack there. There is a lot to unpack there. And this is
yeah,
the thing that one of the things that I think is so important for people to understand when they leave an abusive relationship, because ultimately they think, oh my God, look, I'm out of it now. I'm safe, the person cannot hurt me anymore, and so forth. But then the aftermath of that relationship is all the psychological and emotional elements that you have just talked about. When you talked about this hyper sensitivity, this hyper vigilance that people have, where they're constantly questioning themselves, your brain can run amok if we're not careful. And I
right.
think it's really key that people understand that this psychological impact, the emotional impact that it has on a person, can last a lifetime if if
Mm-hmm,
they don't
mm-hmm,
do
mm-hmm.
anything to help and support themselves. There's so many things you talked about here,
Absolutely.
so many things you talked about here. But what I want to touch on is the fear aspect. The fear, the
Mm,
second guessing themselves with their decisions, the lack of confidence and self-esteem, and the fear aspect that people have about
mm-hmm.
trusting trusting
Right.
again. And I think most importantly,
Yeah,
being able to trust themselves, you know. What
yeah,
what are your
yeah,
thoughts
yeah.
around that in terms of people being able to trust themselves? Because to me, that's kind of like the basis of being able to move forward again and learning to trust people. I
Yes,
think you
that's
first have
that's the
to
big
trust,
point.
yeah, you first have to trust yourself, right?
You-
And trust your
Yeah,
decisions, trust your intuition, because along the way that got lost, and we let
exactly.
things began to slide. Our boundaries were left. We didn't have any boundaries anymore. We let them go, you know. So what are your thoughts around,
Yeah,
learning to trust again, trusting yourself? How important is that for a person that's come out of that type of relationship?
that is key. That's one of the biggest steps you will take in regaining
Mm,
agency and in healing,
yeah,
right? So, and I like the way you said it because if you can't trust yourself, how can you trust anybody else?
yeah,
It's really difficult. But the thing is, I empathize. If somebody is feeling that way
yeah.
right now, it's very normal. Let me normalize that for you first.
Good.
And
Yeah,
it's very okay that you're
yeah,
feeling that way, right? However, you can do something about it. Okay?
exactly.
Because if I don't know how long the person has been in that relationship for,
Mm,
right? So if you look over the course of the relationship and you base your feeling or your trust in your capacity on that relationship, you I can see why you question the the validity, the power of your decision making. And
yeah.
this is where cognitive behavior therapy comes in. That's thought distortions, right? And
Yes.
I want to, if it's okay, I want to walk through a very basic example,
Mm,
right? Because I see why somebody can say I don't make good decisions, right?
mm,
Because throughout the last 5 years I have made poor decisions, even though I knew they weren't the best decisions, yet I continued to make them. And I
yeah,
would turn around and say to you, you were trying to protect something that was valuable to you. In
yeah.
that moment, you thought you were doing the best you could, which could have been the best you could in the moment,
Mm,
right? But now, without going too far, you're saying, well, I can't trust my decision, so I have to rely on somebody else. Did you make the decision to step out of that situation?
yeah, yeah.
You did. So we don't even have to go too far. Let's start from right here, right now. You made the decision. So here's what I have to say. You might have made a series of very bad decisions, but at some point, you put your foot on the ground and say, this is enough. And you made
Mm,
a good decision. You did that. You might have gotten support or encouragement. What this tells me is that you have the capacity to make good decisions.
yeah,
You might be out of practice, and that's fixable. That's fixable,
yeah,
right? But you made a decision prior to that situation in your life, prior to that relationship. Didn't you have any situations where you made good decisions? So
yeah,
sometimes this is where that community is necessary, where they can
yeah.
hold that mirror back to you and say, look, in primary, you made this good decision. In secondary, you made this decision. In college, you made this decision. Prior to that marriage, you had this company, you had this job, you were promoted several times. These weren't all accidents. These were
Mm,
results of your hard work and your good decision making skills.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
you have made a few bad decisions, which is human. But guess what? You have actually turned the card around and you're now making good decisions. So this can be the point
mm,
from where your decisions are now good,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And now you're doing it not from scratch, but you're doing it from experience. What does experience do sometimes? It teaches us, right? So you've learned, and now you can now make those decisions. You can actually be more thorough and careful.
yeah.
Is this decision born from fear, right? Or is this actually honoring my need,
Mm,
my value as a person,
mm-hmm,
right? What
mm,
is underneath this decision?
yeah,
So, for example, I want to go to a different country to start over to pursue um, higher education. This is a very bad decision. It's impulsive because that's what I did in my last relationship. Blah blah blah. Okay, let's unpack that. Let's unpack that. Why do you want to go? What's underneath that?
yeah,
And why do you not want to go? What's underneath that? If you do,
yes,
what are the results of that? If you
exactly.
do not go, what are the results of that? What do you need to make this happen? And do you have the resources you need? If this happens, what does your life look like on the other side of this decision?
Mm,
If it does not happen, so you have to break it down
yeah,
to the baby steps, less things. But I want to encourage you that you have to actually start making decisions. And you will make some mistakes. Again,
yeah.
we're human, we're prone to making mistakes. What matters is that you are able to go back self-correct. Okay,
Yeah.
this didn't work out quite as I thought. No problem. What do I want to do differently? Right? Just don't linger on it. Right.
Yeah.
And then there are times where what else can you do? Talk to other people. Who do you have in your community that can actually steer you in the right direction?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
why we have a community of support.
No, definitely.
So, yes, you've made some poor decisions, but doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know what I liked about what you were saying, in terms of being able to analyze your decisions, be reflective. It's for me, I think about a pros and cons. Do a pros and cons list. So this is more or less what you're saying, looking at what it is that why have you made this decision? What's good about it? What's not so good about it? And weigh them up. One of the things that I always say to my clients as well is to look at the fear behind it. Is it linked to your trauma, or is it, yeah, because if it's linked to your trauma, then sometimes people are making decisions that are not going to help them. Am I making sense? So
But it's
it,
familiar.
yes,
It's
yes,
familiar. So we
yes,
tend to go back to the familiar, even if it's not good.
yeah. So the idea is for people to understand that when they're making a decision, is the decision the right decision because it's just not good for you? Or is it not the right decision because of fear, because it's linked to your trauma, something
Mhm,
that you haven't dealt with? And that becomes a problem
mhm,
because I believe that that holds people back. So that's what I liked about what
mhm,
you said in terms of being able to be reflective,
mhm,
do
mhm,
pros and cons, look at the good
mhm,
bits about what's going to happen if I make this decision, the good stuff,
mhm,
what's not so good about it. And I think when people do
mhm.
um, use this kind of method, it helps to bring clarity.
Yeah.
And I think,
Mhm.
clarity is your best friend because that's what helps you to,
Yes,
clarity helps to move you forward, as opposed to
absolutely.
staying
It's stuck.
stuck.
Yeah.
So I really do think it's really important for people to be clear about, how fear is
Mhm.
showing up in their life. And there was something else you
Yeah.
said, and which I think is so important in terms of decision making, because
Right.
I think about that person who has always looked to others for validation. Yeah.
Right.
Then this is part of,
Yeah.
the cultural conditioning, right? Where sometimes people are not able to make decisions on their own. And not that they
Mhm.
can't,
Mhm.
it's just through their social
Yeah.
conditioning, their cultural conditioning, they've always looked to others to get validation. Sometimes, in most cases, it started from their parents. Then, as they get older, then they're looking for validation from their friends. Then they go into the workplace, they're looking for validation from their bosses or their colleagues. And so they
Mhm.
feel
Mhm.
like their decisions are not valid or worthy. So they don't
Mhm.
ever make decisions. They have an idea, then they ask
Mhm.
somebody to validate
Mhm.
that for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that can be a problem, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
going forward. And I think for people that are going, or people that have been in domestic violence relationships, if they have solely been reliant on the validation from their partner, that is a huge issue in terms of them being able to find themselves, them being able to start making decisions for themselves. It can really be a
Mhm.
hindrance. And so, for me, it's
Mhm.
really important for people to be empowered, yeah, through therapy, not just to have a listening ear, but to be empowered, because for me, it's really important for people to have that autonomy. Once people have that autonomy, they get their
Mhm.
autonomy back, then they become more powerful. And that is the
That's
greatest, yeah,
very,
that's the
that's true.
greatest thing that you know anybody can have. So Eva, uh, many survivors struggle with guilt, as you mentioned, and self-blame. How can therapy help them reframe these feelings and begin to see themselves through a lens of compassion rather than shame? Because as you know, we know that shame is something that is a dream killer, and it holds people back. So what are your
Yeah,
thoughts
yeah.
in terms of how people can see themselves from a
Whew,
different
that's a very good
perspective?
question.
Yeah,
Hmm. As actually, before I answer that, just going back to the first question, and when you think about somebody who has chosen to stay in
yeah.
a relationship that's detrimental to them, I think that what is the need? What need were they trying to have met in
Mm,
that relationship that they stayed longer? Oftentimes, because again, we live in a broken world, we're not
yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Our parents did the best that they could with what they had.
that's
But
right.
oftentimes we grow into adults with gaps and pockets and needs that were never met. So for a child who felt like they were the fifth child on the line and never felt like they were heard or
Mm,
validated in their family of origin, they go into a
yeah,
relationship seeking to be heard,
yes.
right? And that's the safest space is their intimate relationship. But what
Mm,
happens is that they can overdo that, and then becomes a problem, a conflict with the partner. Is like, no, I need to have a space for expression as well. This is not
yeah,
just you, right? So they might be silent and not express themselves in other spaces because that's what they've learned. But when they come to where they're safe, then they want to dominate. So
mm,
for me, when somebody's coming out of that situation, is you need to take time to really understand what your need is, right?
yes, yeah,
And then because oftentimes the reason you have stayed in that thing, now it's not your fault that it happened to you, but sometimes we stay longer because we're hoping this time this need will be met.
yeah.
What is it telling me?
Or that they
Okay.
will
And then
change.
coming back to that,
Or that the person they're
exactly,
with
or
is
that they
going to
will
change.
change.
Yeah,
Right. And then when they change, they get to meet you where you want them to meet you. Again, that
yeah.
need that you're wanting to have
Which
met.
never happens.
Right.
That never
But coming back
happens.
to guilt, no, it doesn't. It does not because you're what that shows actually is a very clear picture of
Yeah,
codependency,
yeah.
right? Where
Attachment.
you cannot separate yourself. That
Yeah,
attachment style. What is your
yeah.
attachment? So that codependency is like this person always has to be involved in everything that has to do with you. They
Mm,
need to be involved in every decision making. Like outside of them, you no longer exist. You erode yourself. You're no longer there. Who
yeah.
are you outside of them? You don't even know anymore. And so I think one thing that I would charge most couples, if you're in a relationship, get into a relationship, is do not lose yourself. Codependency is not healthy in a relationship. You need to give each other breathing space to be able to do some things independently outside of each other. So we all get
Yeah.
meshed and there's that codependency. So you rely on that person so much that you lack now, you've lost the capacity to be able to do things on your own, right? And so that's
Yeah.
where that autonomy, like you said, comes in. Is like if you're not codependent, if you haven't lost the practice of making decisions, then you should still be able
Mm,
to make it. But if you're now
yeah.
on the side, this has happened, and you feel guilty, you feel that shame, and it's really difficult, right?
Yeah.
Practice a lot of self compassion.
Yeah.
Okay, it happened. I'm I'm sad that I allowed it happen. I'm sad that it happened
Mm,
to me. I'm sad that I've lost all that I lost. But that's okay because that's not the end, right? I
that's
really
right.
like narrative therapy in the sense that you get to reauthor your story. You
Yeah.
can write what the next chapters of your life looks
Yeah.
like. That was just a page in a chapter. You
That's
still have
right.
many chapters to write.
Exactly.
Right? So this is where you then become so intentional about reauthoring your story.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is where cognitive therapy comes in as well, where you
Mm.
challenge those distorted thinking patterns. Oh no, I can't make it by myself. I need to. Why?
Yeah.
When was the time I made a decision by myself that it worked out well?
Exactly.
Okay. So then
Yes.
you can then say to yourself, you can then affirm yourself by saying, I know that I have made a series of bad, poor decisions in this situation, but given the situation, I did the best I could. Now
Mm.
I'm in a different space, I'm in a better space. I am willing to give myself the chance to do it again.
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
miss it, I'll do it over and over again until I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Right? So you start to affirm yourself. Use this is where therapy is very, very important, because then your therapist will walk with you. They will actually point out, I'm hearing this, I'm seeing this.
Yeah.
What should you do instead? That you get equipped, you get those tools so that when you're on your own and you can now see these things, you have
Yes.
a name for it, you can then honor it. It's okay. I feel this way. I can understand why this happened. And then apply the tools. What do I do
Yeah.
next?
Yeah.
Right? So a
Yeah.
lot of self compassion, a lot
Yeah.
of narrative therapy, reauthoring, rewriting the story,
Yeah.
and a lot of cognitive therapy, challenging those thoughts.
Yeah.
With practice, you will get better and you will get more confident in your
That's
decision
right.
making abilities. Now, I see the benefit in getting wisdom, right? Getting a
Mm.
second opinion when you're making decisions. I
Yeah.
don't see anything wrong with that. Where the problem is when you cannot make a single
For
decision
yourself.
without getting
Exactly.
external
Yeah.
validation.
Yeah.
That's where the problem is. Because if you
Yeah.
now rely so much on external validation, people can tell, oh, today you're sad, then you're sad. Today you're happy, then you're no, no, no. I should be able to decide for myself.
Yeah.
Today I may be tired. And
Yeah.
and sometimes people can actually point it out, oh, ever so you look a bit tired. And I can say, yeah, I'm pushing a bit harder than usual. I am
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah.
But that's not because I always rely on external voices,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree on having a community and making sure that, people have like that trusted friend who they can bounce ideas off of. And one of the things that I always say is that the buck lies with you, regardless of what anybody says. The decision still lies with you. How does it feel? How does it feel in your body when when to make that decision? Does it feel good? If it feels good, go
Mhm.
with it. If it doesn't, then don't. And I think for all the listeners out there to remember that it's important to know that all the decisions should come from you, and that it is okay. It is okay to have a sounding board, to have that person that you can bounce ideas off of. But remember that when you're communicating, you're engaging with someone, maybe, be sure that you can trust that person and that we're just not spewing our stuff with anybody, because
Mhm.
some people can manipulate you,
Right.
knowing that that you're somebody who's always coming to seek answers from them, and they feel that you're not able to make your own decisions. So be
Right.
mindful of the people that you're going to as well. That's why therapy is so key. It's
Yes.
so good
Yes.
because there's no judgment. There's empathy. You have somebody that can listen to you. It's a safe space.
Right.
And it's important to know that when you go to therapy, when you're seeking therapy, that the time is for you to open up and to
Yes.
express and to go as deep as you want to share exactly what
Mhm.
you want. Nobody's forcing anything on you or
Right.
forcing you to speak about things that you don't want to speak about. That the time is for
Mhm.
you, and I just want
Yeah.
people to know that therapy is good. It's good. I'm
Very
also
good.
I'm a coach, I'm a counselor. I also run my own counseling center where I teach people to become
Mhm.
therapists. I do the CPCAB level 2 and level 3 courses. So,
Mhm.
it's about understanding, because I think, especially in the Black community, I think it's changing a bit now. But I
Mm.
know in the UK, years ago that the only type of therapists were white middle class. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm,
But one of the things that I found, and I
mhm,
remember when I did my dissertation, years ago, and I did like an interview. I went and interviewed a lot of people in the Black African community. And one of the things that they said in terms of why they didn't go to therapy, because they didn't find people who looked like them, who identified with
no
them. Now,
representation.
yeah,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
sometimes it's good, sometimes it's I think we need to differentiate because I think sometimes people don't mind sitting with a therapist who's from a different cultural background. But then you also have some individuals who
mhm,
prefer that, who prefer to sit with a
mhm,
therapist who they can identify with because maybe they understand aspects of
mhm,
their culture, their customs, and their traditions. So it's easier for them to open up and to talk about some of the things that
mhm.
they're going through. So, I think for any listener that's out there that has been on the fence and has been thinking, oh, should I go to therapy or not? I would encourage you today that therapy
Right.
works. It does work. But I'm also mindful that you also have to find the right therapist because and it's okay if you go to a therapy and you have a therapist and there's no synergy or you don't feel like my therapist is hearing me. It's okay to potentially leave and go and find another therapy. Go and find another
That's right.
therapist. It's absolutely okay to do that. I think sometimes as well, I've known people who have stayed in therapy and I've got nothing out of it because they didn't feel like the
Mm,
therapist got them or understood them.
right.
And when I've said to them, look, it's
Right.
okay. It's been, if you wanted to have left, if you wanted to leave, it's okay for you to leave and go and find because I think
Mm,
healing only comes when that rapport is there, when that synergy is there, and you know, you like your therapist. That's when the work, I think that's when,
yeah.
yeah, those are my thoughts on on
Mhm.
on it anyway. What are your thoughts on that, Eva?
Well, I agree. I agree with what you said. And I think I always say to my clients, and people wonder, like, are you driving your clients away? I say to them, you're not supposed to be in therapy for a lifetime.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
You're supposed to gain tools. I'm here to equip you,
Yeah,
right? So that you can then use these tools that you've gained
exactly.
outside of the therapy office. Like you
Yeah,
need to be able to use it real time in life, right? Now, granted, you can re-enter, like if something happens along the line and it's just a bit too much to navigate, and you feel like, oh, okay, I need professional support to navigate this bit, that's fine.
yeah,
I honestly think that most adults need to go to therapy at some point or the other, too,
I
because
totally
you are
agree.
learning yourself. You're
Yeah,
learning to understand your life experiences and
yeah,
how your attachment style and how you are
yeah,
doing life, how you're experiencing life, and how others are experiencing you.
yeah.
And I find that there's a lot of adults without emotional intelligence. So you're
Mm-hmm.
there trying to do a relationship, but you don't have the tools or the skill
Yeah,
set to be able to do that properly, right? And then you're just frustrated in somebody else's child because you lack the
yeah,
capacity to really properly. So
yeah,
I honestly, I firmly believe that most adults, you don't have to be there for a lifetime. Go
yeah,
in and just get to know yourself well. I
yeah,
don't think until I think sense of self, like who am I really? Right? What wounds do I carry? Right? And how do when they show up? And what tools do I need to be able to address them so that they're not interfering with my relationships, all types of
yeah,
relationships. And I
yeah,
think this is good insight for people to have. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. When you're picking a therapist, you're paying for a service.
That's right.
So at no point in time do you feel like you have to stay with somebody
Yeah,
that's not a good fit for you and you're not getting your needs met.
yeah,
right? I will speak from my experience in Canada as well. As a few years ago, there wasn't a good representation of Black therapists.
Mm.
And that cultural aspect is a big deal.
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah.
So then you were seated across therapists putting under extended family relationships or cultural expectations and the burdens and how that was actually affecting your parenting. And they're like, oh, just tell them they can't come to your house. Culturally, that doesn't really work. So can we unpack like other ways to do it that
Yeah.
maintains my sanity
Yeah.
while still, managing the cultural aspect properly?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to encourage anyone who feels like I've seen the sixth therapist and it's okay. Keep going until you find the right one.
Yeah.
That's one. Secondly, for us Africans, Nigerians, I really want to challenge the culture.
Yes, I'm with you, my dear. I
I
am 100% with you.
People are suffering in silence because culturally you're told it
Yes.
is the wife's duty, it is the husband's duty, or it is a child's duty to
Yeah.
sit and be still, be seen and not be heard. Why? Are they
Yeah.
furnitures? And then
Yeah.
you expect them to grow up as adults in a world
Yeah.
where they can assert themselves, go into boardrooms and show their brilliance when you've taught them to be timid.
Hmm.
No, sir. Right. So I
Yeah.
think culturally we need to do differently.
Yeah.
We need to do better. We need to see if these customs and traditions are serving us
Yeah.
or they're taken away from us. I've sat in boardrooms in Canada and I see like other fellow Africans on the table and they can't maintain eye contact or you have to speak so gently or so
Yeah.
aggressively because you are so angry now and you lack the skills to build social
Yes.
interactions,
Yes.
right? And then they have such brilliant ideas, but you don't
Yeah.
know how to
Yeah.
network and to do these
Yeah.
things. So they get passed on
Yeah.
again and again. And you're wondering, oh, you think it's racism. Yes, there's some aspect of racism, but it's
Mm.
just some aspect of shared lack of capacity and
Yeah.
skills,
Yeah.
right? And so this impacts us
Yeah.
as a people. So
Yeah.
culturally, we need to do things differently and we need to
Yeah.
do better. We
Yeah.
need to question there's customs and tradition. I think about some old tale. I think I can't remember. Some uncle, somebody told me this tale a long time ago, and I think about it. I laugh, and I told my youngest son, and he said, "That's so silly, mommy. Why would people do that?" So, from generations, there was this family where I think the great grandma, when she went to buy fish, she would always
Yeah.
cut like half of the fish
Yeah.
and toss it and cook the other half for the family. And so this passed on from generation to generation. And I think it's only on the fifth generation that they asked, "But Mom, why are you doing this?" "Oh, my mom used to do that." "Okay." We went to ask grandma, "Grandma, why are you doing this?" "Great grandma, why are you doing this?" And great grandma was like, "Oh, we were so poor in those days. Our pan was so small, couldn't fit the fish. So we just cut it. There was no refrigerator or anything, and cooked the portion that our pan could
Could
contain."
hold.
So you mean all these years and generations, you've just been wasting good fish because it's a
Oh,
practice that
yeah.
has been passed along without questioning. So that's one of the things that I am known for in my family, and I'm not
Yeah.
surprised that I ended up in this line of work because I question.
Yeah.
Before I do anything, you're going to tell me why. What is the reason I'm doing this? What are we trying to achieve?
Yes.
I'm not doing this just because it's customs and traditions. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you have
Yeah.
the wrong person. You need to tell me how is this going to
Yes,
how
how it's
is this
going
going
to
to better
help
myself
me.
and
Yes.
everyone else involved?
That's
You know,
right. Yeah.
so I think, yeah. So I coming back, circling back to therapy being very useful. I agree, it
Yeah.
is useful, and I think that you need to be gaining tools
Yeah.
um, to use, practice it outside of therapy because it's good to have that rapport. It's good to feel heard, validated,
Yeah.
and seen.
Yeah.
However, you have to use the tools in, and when you do use them, it's uncomfortable in the beginning,
Yeah,
right? But the more you practice, the more you use
yeah,
them, it becomes second nature.
yeah,
At the end of the day, the goal is to become the best version of yourself, to
absolutely.
live life meaningfully and
Yeah,
intentionally, right?
yeah,
That's where you're going to therapy. That's where so your relationships, it doesn't matter if it's business, it doesn't matter if it's intimate, it doesn't matter if it's just, you know, whatever type of friendship, they're
yeah,
meaningful and
yeah,
you're intentional about them
yes,
and they're wholesome because you have the tools to do that.
absolutely. And I totally agree. And this goes back to that autonomy, you know, giving people back. Not giving, it's not that we're giving, but we are, how can I put it? Facilitating a process that enables people to get their power back, you
Right.
know, to get their power back. And this is that autonomy in terms of empowering people to get their power back. You know, I liked what you said, and I'm 100% with you on that, you know, this whole, you know, challenging the narrative in the African culture about therapy. You know, I know once upon a time, you know, our ancestors back in the days, if there was troubles or issues in the family, you went for counsel. Whether you went to an elder mum, or elder papa, it was a form of counseling. Whether they had the right tools or not, but they had something. Do you understand? And so, in the same way, this is counseling. This is our modern day counseling, where we have now the term therapist. But back in our ancestors' days, they were therapists as well. They counseled their, you know,
I
their
would say so.
children
Yes.
with
Yes.
marriage and things like that, and so forth. And again, also to talk, you know, to just mention about domestic violence, because, you know, once upon a time there was peace and balance in the African home. The man respected the woman and the woman respected the man. There was, it was as a result of colonialism where patriarchy, you know, was then enforced, and then it just changed the whole dynamics of the, you know, the male power and things like that. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a man leading, you know, a good leader. There's nothing wrong with that. A man that leads well is it's got my respect 100%. Where there's respect, you know, there's understanding, there's love, you know, there's an open forum of communication where they are working in partnership together, where one is not
Mhm.
dominating the other. Okay. So for me, I absolutely
Mhm.
believe that therapy is important, and especially for the African society. I think more than anything, we need it now because for so long, as you have said, Eva, um, you know, people have suffered in silence and are still suffering in silence based on that, you know, that cultural conditioning in terms of, you know, children growing up, it's seen and not heard. You want to express yourself, shut up there. You're not supposed to say anything. So all of this, you know, all of these examples that you gave in terms of people growing up into adulthood, because as you know, whatever you practice for so long becomes habitual. It becomes second nature. If you're,
Yes.
it becomes second nature. So if you're somebody that, you know, has silenced their voice. You know, your voice was silenced as a child, you grow into adulthood, and you carry that same kind of attitude and behavior where you want to speak, but you don't speak for whatever reason because you feel like, oh, nobody is interested in what I say, what I'm saying is not valid, or you know, it. You grow up as a child,
Mhm.
sorry, as an adult who does not use their voice, and your voice is power.
That's right.
You know, your voice is power. And so again, I want to encourage, you know, the audience, the people that are listening, if you're going through domestic violence or you've left a domestic violence and you're struggling with any of these psychological ailments that Eva has talked about today, you know, therapy is your friend. And I'm totally in agreement with you, Eva, where I say everybody needs to do therapy. I also believe everybody needs to do a counseling course because it teaches you so much about yourself. My goodness,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
teaches you so much about yourself. Even if you don't want to do therapy, it's healing in itself because you learn about yourself through various models of social psycho analysis and theories, for me, therapy is good, and I'm in total agreement with people being able to understand themselves. And before I go on to my next question, one of the things that I always say is that if we look at the stages of human development, nothing stays the same. We are constantly growing, we are constantly changing. From a child, a baby that could not talk or walk, to a toddler who's now saying the little words, who's now walking a little bit but falling down, to, primary, where you're now walking, you're talking, you're learning, and things like that. That is us as humans. We were not born to stay the same. So we have to be mindful that we are evolving and we need to evolve, because if not, we are stunting our growth. We're stunting our development. And then we are not,
And we're
number
frustrating
one, we're not
others for
serving,
have.
yeah, we're not
Yep,
serving
yep,
ourselves
yep,
in the right way.
yep,
So I think that's
yep.
really important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for
Yeah.
those who feel stuck in survival mode, Eva, how can counseling help
Mhm.
them transition from merely surviving to truly thriving and discovering their identity? For anybody who may be stuck in survival mode, how can counseling help them to transition out of that survival mode so that they can actually start thriving and discover a new essence of who they are?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think um, for those who have been through such heavy experiences, counseling can actually just help you unpack
Mm,
and heal from
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Heal from it. It's time to do better. First of all, counseling will normalize that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling.
yeah,
It is human to have experienced what you experienced. You're not at fault.
yeah,
You're not at fault that somebody else chose to show up
yeah,
like that in a relationship. You're not at fault for having so much love to give, for
yeah.
having so much capacity that you held space for that person
Mm,
longer than you ought to have. You're not at fault that the person couldn't see the beauty and the light inside of
value.
you. So,
Yeah.
what therapy will do, your values. So,
Mm,
what therapy will do is it will reintroduce you to yourself.
yes. Yes.
This person, this amazing person that has always been there, but
Yeah.
just didn't have safety
Yeah.
to show up. So, therapy will reintroduce you to that person, to yourself in a way that just releases you from the
Mm,
burden. Okay. Therapy will help you step by step heal from the hurt, the wound,
mm,
will help you drop the weight of the guilt and fear that comes with it.
yeah.
Therapy, if you let it, will equip you to be ready to re engage in relationships.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I actually want to mention here is when you've been through such adverse system that comes from something like domestic violence, I want you to understand first is that you survived.
Exactly.
Many people did not.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
heard many situations in Nigeria here, and my heart breaks where
I
people were
know.
murdered
Yeah.
and they thought they had the right to take somebody else's life.
Mm, it's
Was it
crazy.
just a few years ago during COVID where a very popular gospel artist,
Yes, I
Osinachi,
remember. Yes, I
killed,
remember.
and
My
she suffered
goodness.
in silence. And people saw signs, didn't do anything about it. And
Mm,
just recently, this was this year or late last year, a young man murdered his wife and the child because they thought the wife was having an affair. And that
crazy.
was your solution because you thought you had the right.
Yeah.
right? And then I see situations where like domestic violence is so pervasive and they talk about it with pride. I put her in her place, or I'm like, no, no, sir, no, ma'am. You don't have the right to do that to another human person.
Exactly.
So I want to let you know that you're not at fault,
Yeah.
right? And you survived.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that you take. The next thing to note is that your nervous system has been through a lot.
Mm.
One thing that happens when your nervous system is attacked like that is that you begin to lose capacity.
Mm.
When your mind is running nonstop, you can't sleep. You're laying, but you can't sleep. It
Yeah.
affects your ability to focus. It affects your ability to concentrate. It affects your decision making, which goes back to that
Yeah.
lack of trust in
That's
self.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
you were making those decisions because you were worn out. You haven't rested. You were
Mm.
emotionally stretched beyond your capacity chronically for a
Yeah.
long period of time. You were stressed, so you were emotionally eating, so which affected your weight gain, which affected your self-perception. So it's a whole cycle.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So your nervous system has been through a lot. I will start by simple, and I don't know if this is something, if we have time to just go through, like a very simple I do this with my clients, and I do it in different ways depending on what the needs are. Five senses grounding. I like it because it can be very basic and it can be more comprehensive. The
Mm.
therapist will do it differently depending on the need. But
Yeah.
this, I always give my clients it because wherever you are, nobody else needs to know that you are re regulating yourself, that you are
Yes.
grounding yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because you are going to be triggered as someone who has survived. Little
Yeah.
things will remind you, what do
Of
I do?
course.
What
Yeah.
can I do? You can reground yourself in the present with your five senses. I always start from top to bottom so that I don't forget. My eyes, what are the five things around me that I can see right now?
Mm.
As simple as that. If five is too much, you can do one, but then spend time on that one. What is the
Yeah.
color? What is the texture? What does it make me feel? This is interesting. Have I ever noticed that this was here? Is this new? Spend time with that. What can I see? You know what that's doing? Is reorienting your mind
Yeah.
to come back to now,
Yeah.
present. So you're not lost in that, right? Then you go to your, oh, what can I smell? What four things can I smell in my environment? Oh, that perfume smells very nice.
Mm.
Oh, I don't like the smell of this. Take time. What is it?
Yeah.
What is that perfume? What is the notes? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? Hmm. Is that cinnamon? Is that vanilla?
Yeah.
Spend time. Be only your five senses. You don't need to do
Yeah.
much. What am I hearing? Right now, my neighbor just got a dog and it barks all the time.
Yeah.
And it upsets me. I can hear that dog barking. And
Yeah.
God knows, so you spend time with what you're hearing. Oh, well, three things can I hear?
Yeah.
Okay. Then what can I taste in my mouth? What did I have for
Oh.
breakfast? Oh, was that coffee really cream? Was it vanilla? Was it
Mm.
caramel? Like, you've now, before you've done that, you've forgotten whatever that thought was that you were. But
Oh,
not only that,
wow.
you can read. And then what's the last thing is, what can I feel?
Yeah.
What can I feel? Wow, my skin is so, I like this new skin routine. Okay, I need to do something about my arms. My
Yeah.
hands are really dry. I don't like, you sit with it. Do you
Yeah.
understand? Nobody else needs to be in your business. But by the time you're done with your five senses, you're grounded,
Yeah.
you're reoriented to the present, and then you can then go back and use those tools that therapy is giving you, to be able to move forward
I
from
like
that
that.
experience.
I like that. I like that because grounding is so important. Grounding and you know, people do different things to help ground themselves. But I like this because um, when somebody feels triggered, then it's like you said, by the time they start thinking of five or three things for each of those senses, then it's they've already forgotten about what they were thinking about, what triggered them. But also, sometimes in some cases, after you've done that, the brain can still, so this whole emotional regulation is so key, and one of the things that I used to do, years ago when I experienced, mine, I used to tell myself, I am calm. I am calm and peaceful right where I am. I am, and then you can just feel the whole of your body kind of just calming down, and you can just keep telling yourself that for as long as, if you have to keep reaffirming that in your mind for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, then anything that somebody can do to help ground themselves and to bring themselves back to themselves, I think is such a powerful thing. And this is why I always say to people that you're so powerful. The power that you hold, you
Mm-hmm.
you don't even know, because you can change the state of your being at any time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's having that belief in
Mm-hmm.
yourself, and then obviously using various tools and strategies and grounding techniques. That's when you see the power that you
Yeah,
have, you know. Before we close
absolutely.
out, before we
Absolutely.
close out, Eva, what message would you give to somebody listening right now who may still be in a toxic, abusive
Mm.
situation, afraid to leave, or unsure where to start their healing journey? What message would you give to that listener that's listening to us now that may be
Mm.
going through this?
I think I've said one of it many times over the course of this conversation.
Yeah,
It's not your fault.
yeah,
It's not your fault. It happened to you. Right? And then I think another thing I would like to emphasize is you're not alone.
mm,
One of the lies that we tend to believe and accept and that keeps us stuck for longer than we need to be is that this is peculiar to me. I'm
yeah,
alone. Oh,
going
what
through,
is this person
yeah,
gonna say? What's
yeah,
that? What's that? Like, how come other people succeeded in this? And oh, and then if you add the cultural aspect too, then you lose the respect as Mrs.
yeah,
Now because you're now a Jezebel. Um, can I tell you to be a healthy, peaceful Jezebel? Like your peace, prioritize your health, your
that's
well-being, your
right.
peace.
Yeah.
You're not alone, and you'll be so surprised at
Mm,
the amount of support um, that's available, that's
yeah,
waiting and ready for you to ask and receive. Okay, and lastly, this is not the end of your story. It's not the end. You still have so much more to do.
yes.
You still have so much more to do. There's so much, and I like it even goes to with the title of your podcast, Unwritten Dear Future Self.
Yeah,
Okay. Who do you see yourself becoming in the future? That was
yeah.
in the past. And that's just but a little portion. And now you are actually stronger, you're better, you're more mature, you're wiser. This doesn't get to define who you become.
Mm,
Like Victoria had mentioned, we as people, we are actually supposed to continue to evolve. You're going to evolve from this for yourself and for everyone else around you. Okay? That's not the end
yeah.
of you. I think that's what I'm going to say. And you know what? Make the next chapter be so good that even you can't believe it.
I'm telling
Let
you.
this motivate. Let this motivate you
Yeah,
to actually challenge yourself beyond
yeah.
where you thought you could go, how far you thought you could go, or what you thought you could do. Okay. And never let any experience pass you by without learning from it.
Mm,
Because as much as that was a very difficult situation, what can you learn about yourself from that? What can you learn about yourself? What can you do differently as a person?
exactly.
What have you
Yeah.
learned from it? And then lastly, I think I've said lastly before, but I'm going to say it one more time. Lastly, lastly, uh, turn around and use your experience as a tool for others. Be empowered by it and then turn around and empower somebody else. And I think
Boom.
that's what I would say.
Mic
Yeah.
drop. That's what I would say. That's a mic drop. And you know what?
Thank you.
I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to leave it like that. I just want to say a huge thank you, Eva, for joining me today, or joining us, speaking to, our wonderful listeners on the Unwritten Dear Future Self podcast. It was a pleasure having you on. I just hope that, to all the listeners out there, that you take away one or two nuggets from today's episode, and that, it's empowered you and inspired you to either seek therapy or to start your healing journey. And on that note, please continue to subscribe and like, and also hit that notification bell so that when I drop another episode, you'll be the first to see. On that note, I am out, Victoria Okocha. Thank you so much, Eva.
Thank you for having me.